Je werkgever, zonder dat je het weet, op kantoor of in de fabriek over je schouder meekijkt. Althans, als je in het buitenland woont. Want in Nederland is dat verboden. Camera's mogen hier wel gebruikt worden, maar alleen zichtbaar en met toestemming van de ondernemingsraad. We krijgen vanavond inzicht in de gevolgen van deze ontwikkelingen in Engeland. Gezien door de camera's van onze collega's van de BBC.
That includes the telephone monitoring, the fax monitoring, covert CCTV systems, covert audio monitoring. Cloning of the computer, where we take an image of what's actually on the disk, again, is legal.
What size is this?
In recent weeks, we've worked on 3 or 4 cases, some in the UK, some abroad. They include employee collusion to fix prices for contracts. Another case where someone is about to leave the company and go to a competitor, is working out his notice and claims that he isn't, or he hasn't been passing information to that competitor, when in fact we know from the telephone calls and the faxes that in fact he has been doing so.
The surveillance will probably come about because of instructions from the company. We're worried this guy's leaving. We think he's talking to people over the telephone about our business. What else is he doing? The only way that you can protect your business is to actually look at what the guy's doing and see what the suspicions are.
Did we clear what we're going to be doing? Let's do it then.
We're very careful when we're actually carrying out an installation to make sure that we leave things exactly as they are. Before we touch a desk, we'll take camera shots of it so we can put it back exactly as it was.
Can you do test on phone for me? For while we're working it. It's that target there.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
If you generally ask people about telephones, they generally assume they can be done.
Yeah, that's good.
But a lot of people don't realise that you can monitor fax machines. Thankfully, a lot of fraudsters don't realise you can monitor fax machines. When we clone a computer, what we're actually doing is making an exact copy of the hard disk. Now, this is happening increasingly in our investigations because people use computers increasingly in their daily lives. What they don't necessarily realise is that when they delete something, it doesn't disappear from the computer. The relics or the remnants of it are still there.
Do you want to come out and hold it while you're screwing?
Just about every office has smoke detectors. They're commonplace.
A little to the left.
To be frank, you can't tell the difference between a real one and one containing a camera.
Perfecto. Except it's just showing a tiny touch of the hole at the side there.
Door de toename van camerabewaking is het aantal privédetectives drastisch toegenomen. Soms worden werknemers zelfs buiten werktijd nog geschaduwd. Ook als een werknemer bij een bedrijf vertrekt, kunnen zijn gangen nog worden nagegaan.
A company from down south has approached us and said that one of their directors has left and he's contractually obligated not to work for any of their competitors. So basically all we need to do is nail the guy working for this other company. Hopefully Mark will get some photographs of him coming and going today.
Right, he actually works there. So what we'll do now is find where the entrance is and hopefully find the place where we can not get spotted ourselves by the employees. About 90% of the job is just waiting around, but the 10% easily makes up for the 90% of waiting, because when the target comes out or you spot something that you're supposed to be there for, watching out for, you know, your heart leaps into your mouth and you're off and your adrenaline rushes around your body, and it's well worth it.
It used to be, going back 20 years, that if they've got an idea there was a large-scale fraud going on within their factory unit, they could get the police involved to do a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week surveillance. The police haven't got the budget to do that nowadays, so the police will actually inform the employer to get more, more evidence, and then to go to the police with the evidence so that they can, perform an arrest. It usually comes down the likes of the shoulders of the private detective now to go out and, get the evidence.
This video is from a covert camera installed in a small accountancy firm where they had problems with petty cash disappearing on a regular basis. What we've got is this guy. Now, he comes in, he's looking very suspiciously about. What he hasn't seen is the camera in the corner or the triggering device. He goes straight into the area where the cash box is. It's a part of a husband and wife cleaning team. I don't believe, from what we see here, that the wife knows very much about it, because there's the money in the hand going into the pocket, and that's while he's checking to make sure that his wife's not coming down from the other end of the floor. What he does then is he clearly tidies up, making sure he's obliterating any fingerprint-type forensic evidence.
Just straightening it up.
Yeah, putting it back in the position it was in before. And I was particularly touched by the fact that he did a little bit of cleaning on the way out.
Very good evidence.
With that particular scenario, we weren't sure how suspicious the particular target was going to be, so we chose to use quite a small camera put into a location in the corner of the room. What we actually used was this one here, which allowed us to get the camera up in the corner in the ceiling. We triggered the whole system using a passive infrared sensor like this above the door. Effectively, what that meant was the camera was on, but the recorder wasn't running until somebody came in to trigger this device. Now, this is a passive infrared sensor, but this one's modified. It works as a sensor, but it also has built in a small camera.
I think that there's every justification in monitoring in order to safeguard the interests of your business. There has been quite a number of abuses over my 20 years' experience in business, really. I think one of the earliest memories I have is a chap who came to work for one of the businesses I was running, and he had been made bankrupt. And I thought, well, you know, that's all right, we'll take him on anyway, having kind of broad-minded vision towards it. And he seemed to be very, very good at his job, until we realized when we got the very first phone bill that, in fact, this phone bill was horrendous. In those days, surveillance was rather primitive, and it consisted of someone hiding in the office next door one night, and we realized that he was in fact running an international insurance company.
Yeah, who can we use? We've got to make it convincing, or the old man will smell of rat. It's the chief executive, it's got the prices with.
Once we've got all the photographs and reports together, we'll send that off to the client, and then we'll leave it to the client to see what he decides to do. More than likely, if we get enough evidence, we'll sue him for breach of contract.
How do you feel about that?
I don't feel anything about it. I don't know the guy. I'm not bothered. I've got a job to do and I'll do it.
Got a cracking result on that Wakefield job. The guy had actually turned up in his son's car. So instead of using this motor of his own he was supposed to have, he's obviously trying to hide things, and turned up in his son's motor, parked up outside, got photographs and video of him going in and out, and he worked there all day. So phoned the client. The client's as happy as a pig in I don't know what.
Right.
OK.
I'll catch you later.
All right, see you after.
These are the photographs that our investigator took. That's a particularly good one of him outside the factory with his son's car. And there's one with the actual car registration on, showing him leaving the factory at the end of the day. The client says, in his words, he was going to sue the arse off him.
The guy's not entitled to do what he's doing, so he's breaking the rules and we've nailed him for it. Simple as that. So yeah, it's great. We're dead chuffed.
Het is niet alleen fraude wanneer een directeur contractbreuk pleegt, bedrijfsgeheimen verkoopt of spullen mee naar huis neemt. Dankzij de ontwikkelingen in de informatietechnologie is het aantal manieren om fraude te plegen flink uitgebreid.
I think it is equally valid to call fraud the person who uses half her day or his day on the internet playing about when they should be working for you. I think it is fraud when somebody continuously makes private phone calls. I would call fraud an emotional determination to give less than is expected of you in a dishonest way.
I'd imagine that certainly in the larger corporations, the vast majority, something like 75%, 80%, would have tools in place certainly for monitoring internet access and the sites visited, and more and more are getting tools for monitoring email as they realise the dangers to the company of indiscriminate email use. I must say, when I've been monitoring, I've seen some things that have made my hair curl a bit. I've been shocked by some of the content I've seen through several years of monitoring. Child pornography, for instance. Sometimes the actual amount, the length of time that somebody has been on the internet has surprised me, but not from a moral point of view, just from a professional point of view, wondering how people can spend 2.5 hours out of their day sitting browsing the internet, for instance. Sometimes the actual amount, the length of time that somebody has been on the internet has surprised me, but not from a moral point of view, just from a professional point of view, wondering how people can spend 2.5 hours out of their day sitting browsing the internet, for instance.
As a company, we tend to have a relatively open view about information flow. We have no problem with our staff using the internet and emails for their own personal circumstances, in the same way as we don't have a problem with staff picking up the phone and talking to their mother for 5 minutes. The question becomes one of abuse.
I can do a search on the word sex. And that's an advert for hottest and sexiest Britney Spears pictures, but nobody's visited that. They've just been shown the advert, so no problem on that one. Delaware State Police State Bureau of Identification Sex Offender Central Registry. Somebody's been looking at an awful lot to do with Delaware. I wouldn't like to say what's behind that. Lesbian sex shows, see it now, click here. On a personal level, you can infer an awful lot about somebody just by the websites they visit. Obviously, if they go to some of the more extreme sites, you get to know a bit about their sexual preferences. But, as I say, although I might giggle inside, I can't conceive any circumstances that I'd take advantage of that knowledge.
Email is a way for people to be able to communicate with the outside world. And so sitting at your desk, it's very possible that, and has happened, that some of our staff have communicated with perhaps their new employer or a potential competitor. And we can see that happening.
I've got the list of all the emails of everybody who sent mail in or out of the network. So to find the person I'm monitoring, I just do a find, put in the person's name. So as soon as it's found the person I'm looking for, I can just click and it will then display the messages that they've actually sent or received. And if I click on this, in the right-hand window, I see the text displayed of that message. This looks like a social message, a private email to the family, social again, an email to one of our customers. Social is actually a joke being circulated. A reply to that joke. Arranging to go out with a friend. After the weekend that was just arranged, this is saying how nice the weekend was. A request not to send in any rude, lewd or pornographic messages because she knows her email's being monitored, and the rest is just social. I'd imagine the majority of people don't know they're being monitored, but if they're working for a company that takes IT and IT security seriously, I'd hope they'd actually take comfort in the fact that the tools are there and being used.
Can you just see if we can just sharpen the focus up a little bit? Tweak it ever so slightly to the left. Yeah, that's good.
In Groot-Brittannië worden meer beveiligingscamera's verkocht dan waar ook ter wereld. Jaarlijks meer dan 250.000. Maar kan de werkgever blind varen op de opnames die met deze camera's worden gemaakt?
The cameras on the floors in the early days were very obvious. It was just part of the furniture. It was January 1992 when the major problem started for me. I used to be a diamond sorter working with De Beers in London through the Central Selling Organisation, and I worked for them for 25 years.
He had a job that was, to my friends, very glamorous, and I was very proud of what he did because it was an unusual job as well.
What happened in '92, a girl who had been there a long time, we heard had been accused of stealing diamonds, and that this was all on videotape. So I, in my wisdom, said to most of my colleagues, well, there must be more to it than just tape. They wouldn't dare accuse somebody of stealing diamonds just on videotape alone. I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that I was asked to go over the road and was promptly arrested.
Volgens de diamanthandel toonden de videobeelden aan dat Neil diamanten had gestolen. Ze lieten Neil opnamen zien van 3 maanden oud. Buiten de videobanden was er geen bewijs.
The first one was apparently from a static camera, and it showed me cleaning, or basically fiddling with my shirt. Now, I haven't explained what it is. I mean, this is a loop for looking at diamonds, and you hold the loop up to your eye. Invariably, you get finger marks on it, whatever. And what I do in the video is that, and clean the loop on my shirt. It's a habit, but that was the basis of them deciding to target me further. The next film they showed me was me sat at the bench, and behind me is a photocopier, and one of the other chaps who was working the photocopier didn't know how to work it correctly, asked me if I could assist him. I got up and moved, and my hand clipped a stone as I stood up. And again, they said that that was possibly me taking a diamond.
Had the diamond actually gone?
Yeah.
How could you prove that it hadn't gone?
If they had bothered to come over that night, I was working on large stones at the time, all +2 carats. The goods that were on our trolley could have been weighed and checked within an hour. And there would have been nothing missing.
Neil werd beschuldigd van diefstal en op staande voet ontslagen. 3 weken later verklaarde de rechter de zaak niet ontvankelijk.
They had no evidence to offer. CPS had said that because there was only the video evidence and no other evidence, that they couldn't possibly take this through to the court. There was nothing there to prove that Neil had done anything.
My mortgage was held by the company, and they gave us 3 months to pay off our mortgage. The world was just caving in. My memory of those weeks is vague. I really fell apart, I guess. People that you trusted, you gave your loyalty to, could do that to you. It's just beyond the belief, and it's staggering. I say it hurts now.
Een klachtencommissie bepaalde dat het ontslag van Neil onrechtmatig was, omdat er procedurefouten waren gemaakt. Maar men vond het niet onredelijk dat men bij De Beers na het zien van de videobeelden tot ontslag was overgegaan.
I think quite plainly everyone knows the camera does lie. It's only telling you what the operator behind that camera is wanting you to see. In our case, the hand's going back. They're saying that's me picking up diamond. That's what the head of surveillance wanted the board of directors to see, and that's what he told them they were seeing. It's down to the people that are actually operating the videos machines and what they are looking for and what they're going to use it for. If it's done responsibly, they can only be a useful tool. Irresponsibly used, as in my case, it is a lethal tool.
Soms worden er verkeerde conclusies getrokken uit de beelden van beveiligingscamera's. Maar het gebeurt ook dat videoopnamen juist aantonen dat een verdachte werknemer onschuldig is.
The client was aware that £50 was regularly being stolen from a petty cash box. This man was a prime suspect because he was the man in charge of the petty cash box, and he was the person who always reported that the cash was missing. At this point, this man was very worried. No one had actually tackled him about the theft, but he knew that other people suspected that he was responsible. I decided to use this filing box with a pinhole camera through the tail of the four. And the camera, looking through the box, is connected to a recorder inside the box. After the suspect had left, this man arrived. He was seen with keys, and he's now opening the desk drawer. He's taken the money from the box and placed it in his inside pocket. The man in the film was a junior partner in a major company in the City of London. The following morning he was confronted with the video evidence. He admitted that he was the thief. The reason given was that he had a drugs habit and he was regularly spending money on drugs in the city. He was immediately dismissed and escorted from the building. The employers were obviously very surprised at the result, but delighted that the original suspect had been exonerated.
Maar als camera's een verdachte werknemer kunnen vrijpleiten, moet je ze dan maar standaard in elk kantoor ophangen? Het is ook mogelijk dat beveiligingscamera's ongewenste neveneffecten op werknemers hebben.
Without doubt, it's now got to a position where employers in the United Kingdom can, almost without any limitation, place their workers under surveillance. Problem is, as Stanford University found out, if you put a rat in a cage and stare at it for long enough, it becomes neurotic. If you talk to anybody who has found that their conversations or their private images have been bugged, you get the same story of violation, the same sense that the world has intruded into a very private moment. I've never seen any serious assessment of the cost efficiency, the cost benefit of having surveillance in the workplace. I think it's a false economy. It certainly creates enormous problems in terms of management relationships with employees.
Good evening, guys. Tower reception. Tracy speaking. How may I help?
We installed 2 cameras within the post room, and they were installed in the roof void above the false tiles. The cameras were installed by an independent security organisation out of hours when the post room was closed.
On the day in question, myself and certain other colleagues in the post room came into work, and we was like sitting down, talking, like having a quick cup of tea and things like that in the morning. And because it's a brand new post room, basically, and you know, we noticed there were some holes in the ceiling. So with just curiosity, we looked at it, just looked up while sitting down and looked up. And we noticed like you could see like something shining. So stood up, moved the tile, and then we saw a camera. The size is minute, you know, fit in the middle of your palm of your hand. And you only expect to see these things on James Bond and things like that. You don't expect to see them in the everyday environment, you know, like the working environment at all.
To the best of my knowledge at the time, the board were not made aware that the cameras were put in, and it was the decision of the Director of Facilities, although I was the Deputy Director at that time, and I was aware that he was going to put those in.
How did you feel about it at that time?
I felt that the end justified the means.
This particular one in a private area. It's supposed to be our coffee area, our rest area, our changing area. Obviously not on the work area.
Volgens het ziekenhuis hadden leerlingverpleegsters gemeld dat er met poststukken geknoeid werd en dat er poststukken verdwenen. Medewerkers van de postkamer zeggen dat ze de directie daar lang voor de camera's geplaatst werden op hadden gewezen.
As soon as they were discovered, clearly the alarm was raised and the cameras were then withdrawn after that. We then sat down with the postroom staff and explained why we'd put them in. We then presented all of the evidence that we discovered to date, including the torn packets which were discovered in the waste bins in their area, including the list of all the items that had gone missing, and including the fact that we'd done a full investigation. We gave them all of that evidence and we discussed the issue fully with them at that stage. It's interesting, I think, to note that although we didn't catch anyone, that the thefts almost ceased immediately following the introduction of those covert cameras there. So although we never caught anyone, the crime stopped.
The problem hasn't gone away. We still get mail that comes in open, sellotaped. So it hasn't stopped. As the staff had told management and pointed to management at the time when you're sorting mail, that there was mail coming in, why would they, you know what I mean, be doing that if they're nicking mail or they're tampering with the mail? Why would they? You don't commit a crime and say, officer, there's a crime being committed and you're committing a crime at the time. It doesn't make sense.
I'm being recorded as I wander around this hospital every day of my life. People can see where I'm going, what I'm doing. Our swipe card systems record which doors I'm going through, when I've gone through those doors. I don't see the use of covert cameras a huge leap from the systems that we already have in place.
We're all there to do a job at the end of the day, you know, and to do the job, you need people to respect you and trust you, you know, to get the best performance out of any staff, you know, and if you choose not to, then you can't expect nothing different than a half-hearted service, you know, you're demoralising people, you know, low esteem, everything. You know, you want me to respect you, you want us to respect you, but you don't want to respect us, you know. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Hey, mate. Just those couple of jobs. Right. I said we could probably do it, but we'd need a little bit more time than normal.
Well, I'm just waiting around for this guy with the tracking device to phone me and give us the go to go and do it all.
Stuart's actually been dealing with a company where they've got a problem with one of their salesmen putting in, they think, false timesheets. What he's done is he's fitted a tracker on the vehicle which should monitor where the vehicle has been during the course of a day. And they'll just compare that against the timesheets that he puts in and hopefully get a result.
This equipment is a satellite tracking system, so it will tell you, once you've downloaded it, where the car has been, at what times of day, exact to the second. Depending who the client is, depends entirely on where we get access to the vehicle. Sometimes it's they bring the vehicle to us at the offices, and sometimes we meet on a car park within a relative distance to their company. Obviously, it's got to be out of the way of where their employee is going to be, so that he doesn't see his vehicle being tampered with on a high street car park. The benefits are that once it's in, it's completely discreet and the employee won't know anything about it after it's actually in there. This information is totally accurate and will far outweigh anything an individual employee could possibly say.
Werknemers weten vaak niet dat ze in de gaten worden gehouden. En meestal is het ook onduidelijk waarom het gebeurt. Doen werkgevers het omdat ze hun personeel ergens van verdenken, of willen ze hen alleen maar bespioneren? En hoe kun je voorkomen dat een bedrijf iemand laat controleren om een reden voor ontslag te vinden? De motieven van bedrijven zijn niet altijd eenvoudig te achterhalen.
We did have an instance where we were contacted by an MD of a company who wanted us to do some surveillance within a factory, covert cameras, because he said there was actual product going missing from the factory. When we actually got the video surveillance back and put it back to him, we found out what his true motives were. It was one of his fellow directors actually seeing one of the young secretaries, and he was trying to get evidence to actually blackmail him with. When he actually came clean and said that's what he wanted the film for, the morality of, you know, the way we conduct business, we wouldn't let him have it, and obviously he didn't pay for the surveillance.
Ook als het motief redelijk is, tast videobewaking de privacy van de werknemers aan. Wat gebeurt er als iemand in de gaten wordt gehouden omdat hij van een misdrijf wordt verdacht en er vervolgens een ander misdrijf aan het licht komt? Mogen werkgevers iets met die informatie doen? Mag alles wat je zegt of doet op je werk zomaar gebruikt worden?
We'd actually been spied on and my privacy had been invaded. They knew things about me, medical things, private conversations. It was going round and round in my head. What on earth had I said that they could have picked up on these closed-circuit cameras? Then I found out that they actually had done over 100 hours of tape and I'd only seen about 10 minutes of it. So God knows what were on there. I just don't know what on earth were on there.
They used the camera to discipline employees because they found by accident a conversation which was not related whatsoever with the crime they were searching for. Therefore, I think it was very unethical to use what they caught on that camera for another matter altogether.
I first realised I'd been filmed when I was actually under arrest in the police station, and the two police officers showed me this video and I was absolutely gobsmacked. I was trying to figure out in my mind, where did they have a camera and the sounds, you know? And how on earth did we not see them? But we found out later that it was, they'd actually deactivated a fire alarm, the fire detector in the ceiling, and placed a camera in there. And I still don't know to this day how they managed the sound bit.
Ross Johnstone en Gerald Tourtois werden op 15 oktober 1998 gearresteerd op verdenking van drugshandel op het universiteitsterrein. De universiteit had 3 anonieme brieven ontvangen waarin hun namen werden genoemd en stapte met de brieven en een aantal videoopnamen naar de politie.
I said, it's absolute rubbish. I have not ever done drugs in my life and I don't even know anything about drugs. About 3 or 4 minutes after that, the matter was dropped. Then my duty solicitor came through and he said, you're now going to be interviewed on conspiracy to GBH. I said, are you joking? He says, no. I says, God, why? Where have they dug this up from? He says, no, what it is, Roz, is you've been caught on closed-circuit TV.
Op de band is te horen dat Ross bang is dat ze bij een voetbalwedstrijd haar baas Steve tegenkomt. Ze heeft namelijk al geruime tijd ruzie met hem. De verdenking dat Ross Steve in elkaar wilde laten slaan was gebaseerd op een gesprek dat ze kort na de wedstrijd met Gerard had.
She said something like, my manager happened to be there just a couple of rows in front of us, and my husband knows and I have a grievance against him, and he would be delighted to smash his nose.
It was just like idle chat. It wasn't a threat, you know. To me, if somebody said that about me, you know, I'd be thinking, oh, well, let them get on with it type of thing. You know, I didn't think it was serious enough to be actually taken as a threat.
De universiteit hield vol dat het bestuur terecht met de opname van de verborgen camera's naar de politie was gegaan. Ross en Gerard werden 6 maanden geschorst. Ross kreeg een berisping omdat ze verzuimd had aan de directie door te geven dat iemand van plan was om haar baas in elkaar te slaan. De aanklacht tegen Gerard werd uiteindelijk ingetrokken.
I believe in some circumstances it is justified when it is to search for a specific crime. But what I do not believe is that a private person can do it. They don't know what they are doing. They are basically peeping toms.
Het is dus toegestaan om persoonlijke gesprekken en telefoongesprekken van een verdachte werknemer af te luisteren. Maar wat is de volgende stap? Gaan werkgevers hun personeel straks fulltime in de gaten houden?
Yeah, we do that with a transmitter in, and then you can put a video in another room or something. A pinhole one. I only have one, but it's out on hire until Monday. It's back. I'm picking it up over the weekend. It's up in Glossop at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, no problem, yeah. All right, see you then, bye. Wealthy guy. He owns this enormous security company and checks up on his staff every now and again. He has us following him around or has us taping their telephone calls at work just to see what they're saying and what they're not. I mean, the guy probably turns over about 5 million, 6 million a year, something like that, so it's quite a big company. And he obviously doesn't want to lose any of his clients, so he just likes to keep one step ahead of them all the time, see what they're up to. Hello, Abbey Investigations.
I'm aware of a number of companies that are using surveillance to monitor staff, to see what they're doing. And won't talk about it, and who won't necessarily use that equipment in order to bring somebody to task or to trial or to the police, but are using it as a surveillance over their staff, as a form of intelligence, if you like. And by doing so, they will catch perhaps the conversations, be in a position to respond to a change of atmosphere, and that gets back to what you interpret as fraud. If you come and work for someone, that is a contract. It's a contract where you say, you will pay me to be here, and during those hours, I will be committed to doing my best for you. I have a lunch hour, I have a break to have a cigarette or a coffee. I'm entitled to that. But I do think that your world in your head is limited during your working day. Otherwise, what is the agreement? Is the agreement that you're just there in body? Do you fulfill your contract by simply sitting there? Does it mean you don't have to be committed to the business? It cannot. So if I employ you, I demand from you your skills, your integrity, and your emotional commitment.
Anything and everything that we turn up, whether we feel it's relevant to the inquiry, we will add that in on the report as we're preparing it. Now, it may be that it's a commercial investigation and there are goods going missing off the shop floor. However, if we end up following a member of staff that we suspect of doing that and we see them having an affair with another person, we'll put that in the report. If we found out that somebody was going to a therapist once, twice, 3 times a week, whatever, but that wasn't what we were investigating, we would still supply the company with the information, and it would be up to them to interview their staff member and just ask him whether everything's okay, or whether he's under stress, or whether he needs help with his job, whether he needs retraining. They can then approach you from a different avenue and maybe get the job resolved in that way.
Welke reden een werkgever ook heeft om werknemers in de gaten te houden, toch moet voorkomen worden dat hij misbruik maakt van de persoonlijke informatie die hij daarbij verzamelt.
By looking at the list of all the emails, I can see if people are having relationships with other people inside the company. Sometimes I'll see 20 or 30 emails as part of a conversation in a day. With experience, I've learned to recognise these sort of things.
Hello.
As IT is much more relevant to companies, so much more of people's information and companies' information is the property of the IT department. It's inevitable. The power of the people maintaining the computers grows, but as their power grows, so do their responsibilities.
I believe strongly that the company has a right to protect the information that it has that gives it competitive advantage. At the same time, I think that staff rights to privacy and to the right sort of working environment is very important. So our policy in relation to monitoring is one that is, we have the tools, but staff are aware that we have the tools and they're aware that when we are monitoring. I would find it very difficult to accept a circumstance when monitoring should happen without the staff being aware.
Ja, er wordt in Groot-Brittannië eindelijk gewerkt aan een wet op de bescherming van persoonsgegevens. Maar het is nog onduidelijk wat de reikwijdte van deze wet zal zijn. Ook inmenging in het privéleven van de werknemer door de werkgever wordt via een wet ingeperkt. Helaas heeft voorlopig alleen personeel van overheidsinstellingen hier baat bij. Ook het aftappen van telefoons wordt aan banden gelegd. Maar werkgevers mogen gewoon doorgaan met het plaatsen van microfoons, het inbreken in computers en het plaatsen van verborgen camera's. Althans, laat dat vooral duidelijk zijn in Engeland. Bij ons is alles gelukkig heel goed geregeld.